Morning. I'd like to ask H.R. Cook to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Morning, everybody. Welcome to the January 27th, 2014 meeting of the Shawnee County Board of Commissioners. My name is Bob Archer. I serve as chair of the board, along with Commissioner Kevin Cook, who represents District 2, and Commissioner Shelley Bueller, who represents District 1. Good morning.
Good morning.
First item, please.
Item 3, consent agenda. Move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item 4, new business. A, County Clerk number 1, consider all voucher payments.
Mr. Chair, we have today vouchers totaling $534,982.16. All of my questions have been answered. I would move for approval of the vouchers as presented.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook to approve the vouchers as presented, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item A2, consider correction orders.
Move approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Bueller to approve the correction order, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item B, District Court number 1, consider approval of request to purchase a server necessary to complete the court electronic filing system in the amount of $6,806.96.
Good morning, Commissioners. Kathy Lenhart, Court Administration. I've attached a quote for this server. It was more or less a planned purchase. You will see I also have the capital outlay request attached on Form F. This is necessary to complete the e-filing portion. It's a server of a size that is necessary to do that task. So any questions you have, I also have Stephanie here who might answer technical questions.
Are there questions or comments?
I have no questions, and I appreciate the court coming to us, even though we technically don't really have the ability to deny the purchase, but I appreciate the court keeping us informed of their budget and their expenses. I'd move for approval.
Second.
And I would like to echo that. It's nice to have it documented in our agenda and the documentation. Motion made to approve by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. Next item, please.
Item C, corrections number 1, consider approval of request for out-of-state travel for 2 administrative employees to attend a conference at a total estimated cost of $1,300.
Good morning, Corrections. Good morning, Commissioners. Brian Cole, Department of Corrections. Before you today is a request for 2 of our administrative employees to attend training outside staff in Chicago. It is related to our efforts with the Juvenile Detention Alternative Initiative. The money does not have to come out of our budget. It would come out of grant funds that we receive for these types of training and purposes and things like that. And we do believe this would benefit our quality of service to the juvenile offenders and enhance our staffing performances. So with that, I'd stand for any questions you may have.
Other questions?
I don't have any questions other than, Brian, are you anticipating using the Topeka United Airlines to fly to Chicago?
Yes,
since we can now fly
we are.
direct?
Yes.
Well, I checked that question off that I had. So, thank you, Commissioner.
Do you have a question?
Yes,
Brian,
Commissioner Bueller.
have you included just an itinerary? And
I can get one, yes.
I think for purposes of the clerk, I think that would be helpful.
Absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
had one printed off. It was like 13 pages, but I can get you one, yes. I'll get
Go ahead and
everyone,
get it
yes.
to-
Absolutely.
Thank you. I'll move approval of the request. Or actually, if there was one already, I'll second.
I'll move for approval and
Okay, well, I'm getting confused, but, well, let me say that I think it's important that we continue to stress fly out of Topeka
Correct.
to Chicago.
Yes,
And
that's what
I
we did.
appreciate that our employees are doing that.
Yes.
I think that's exceedingly important. Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller to approve the request. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, Brian. Next item, please.
Item D, Kansas Expo Center. Number 1, consider request to purchase high-definition television production equipment needed for the upcoming NAIA wrestling tournament in Landon Arena at a cost of $24,900 to be reimbursed with Shawnee County transient guest tax funds as they become available, and consider requests for capital expenditures in a total amount of $11,102.65 for the following items. A, repair and service of 10-foot overhead door at Agricultural Hall in the amount of $828. B, Zamboni repairs in the amount of $1,798.38. C, repair of sending unit on fuel gauge on New Holland TN75A tractor in an amount of $869.05. D, replacement of thermostat on West Air Handling Unit in Heritage Hall in an amount of $845.39. E, multiple repairs of Agricultural Hall boiler in an amount of $3,700. F, replacement of a 4-inch pipe carrying supply water to the 3-way valve on Air Handling Unit Number 1 in an amount of $1,505.38. And G, replacement of bearings on the motor in glycol pump number 1 and ice plant in an amount of $1,556.45.
Good morning, Commissioners. H.R. Cook, General Manager of the Kansas Expo Center. The repair items are our typical capital repair items that we normally bring to you. And I'll be able to, because there's so many, I'll answer any questions you may have on those individually. The camera switching equipment is a little bit different for this request. We're asking to purchase this equipment. We'll be purchasing this equipment out of our operating account and then utilizing county transient guest tax as it becomes available to reimburse our operating account due to the fact that time is of the essence. We'll need to get this equipment in for NAIA. What we're looking to do, we had installed in 2009 or 2010 our video boards, marquee, and camera operating equipment. It is standard definition because of NAIA. Several other events that we have that are coming in, they're requesting now high definition production. We do all of our production in-house, and then we give that feed to the networks. We give the feed to the for webcasts. We utilize this production equipment for revenue generating events such as the Demolition Derby, where we did our own pay-per-view, and then again NAIA. Well, this will be also a revenue generating option. So it's state of the art. We're one of the few buildings in the Midwest that'll have high definition capabilities in our production system, and that comes to $24,900 from Video Assistance Company. They're out of St. Louis. One of the items that is not on here, we're going to be rewiring all of our cabling systems for our cameras with fiber optic cable. We're still getting a price for that. We're asking, that'll be on the agenda in the next, probably next week, and that probably will be coming out of our capital repair budget because that'll be part of the building. So I'll be more than happy to answer any questions you may have regarding these two items, all these items.
I do have a question. H.R., what's the fund for the balance of the transient guest tax funds? How much, refresh my memory, how much do we allocate there, or did you receive?
Last year, well, this year we're estimating, depending on, we have one hotel in the county, Super 8, which we receive those transient guest tax from. It ranges anywhere between about $30,000 to $45,000, depending on their occupancy. So
Thought
we'll
it was
have a
around
balance.
the
And then
30,000 amount.
right. We will normally take that fund and utilize it for marketing. But because this type of equipment, NAIA National Championship Wrestling coming in March, puts a lot of heads in beds. We went through a very lengthy bid process, beat out several cities for this event, and I believe this is a good fund to use for these
Okay.
for this equipment.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we could talk for a moment about the Zamboni. I noticed from the minutes of the Expo board, there was discussion of the Zamboni, problems with it. How old is the Zamboni at this time?
Zamboni, I believe, is approaching, it's over 15 years old.
Okay. And this seems to be a reoccurring item on our repair list. I noticed that in the minutes for the Expo board, it talked about the Zamboni repairs being descended off to the company, and the one company that repairs Zambonis was between $13,000 and $17,000. And what's indicated here is repairs for $1,798.38. Why not, I mean, are we at a point now when it would be prudent to send it off, or do we want to wait a little bit longer to send it off for that repair, or should we be looking at a new Zamboni? How does that fit into the overall scheme?
Well, on ice resurfacers, especially the Zambonis, what will normally happen is about every 5 or 6 years, we'll send the Zamboni off to, I believe it's in Michigan, and they will go through it bolt by bolt, piece by piece, and explain to us what's happening, what's breaking down, and that is where the $13,000 comes from. Anything that they find then is above that. It's kind of like a PM on your vehicle. They'll go in, go through it, and tell you, well, you need new brakes, you need new rotors, and it's going to be above that. It is, to me, it is long past due for purchase of a new Zamboni. Unfortunately, there's only one in the area. Unlike Public Works, who has a dump truck go down, they can utilize another dump truck. We baby the Zamboni along, and we listen for any sounds whatsoever and repair it immediately, because we have to be able to perform each and every day that the ice is in. So this particular water pump is original. It should have normally those water pumps will go out after about 7 or 8 years. We're able to carry it on to about 15. We do carry a ample supply of spare parts because you can only buy them from California. And we've got a staff that either work on it, or we use an outside company here in town that will do our repairs, can equip, who knows how to work on them. Because the inner workings of a Zamboni are basically a Volkswagen drivetrain with hydraulics. So if you can work on a Volkswagen and you can work on forklifts, that's basically how it works. It's just the parts are very unique.
So this purchase is just to keep it running at this point?
To keep it running at this point, I will be submitting on our capital request for next year the possibility of replacing the Zamboni or adding another one so that we have a backup. Most buildings, even in community center buildings that have ice, usually have two. One is a backup.
What's the average cost of a Zamboni?
Anywhere between $65,000 and $80,000. We're also noted in the minutes, we're kind of keeping an eye out of ice rinks that may be going out of business, that may have one that they want to sell or put up for auction. That may be another possibility, because a lot of times they'll have very low hours and there's very few buyers for those.
Thank you.
Anything else?
I don't have anything else. I would move for approval of the capital expenditures and the expenditure request for the high-definition TV. I know they're put together in one request, but they look like separate items, so I would move for both approvals.
Second.
Thank you. I had a couple of questions. HR, do you have an estimate of what the fiber optic installation is going to cost?
Yes, anywhere between, that's probably about $7,000.
$7,000
Yeah, and
total.
we will install that in-house. That is for the fiber optic cable, the connectors, the plates.
Okay. And the HD equipment, as we talked about earlier, we have the expertise in-house to run that equipment.
Yes, Phil Thompson, our marketing manager, is also in
Okay.
charge of our video production crew. We have a crew of about 7 or 8 that handles the switching equipment, does camera work. We'll utilize talent from Washburn University from their technical. We also have some talent from maybe doing internships at the TV stations that want extra, well, we pay, so they pick up a few extra dollars working for us. So, yeah,
Okay.
it's a very talented crew.
Okay. My final question was, to really do well in the pay-per-view arena, we need to do this.
Yes, absolutely. It was also part of the, we had 2 options for the NAI wrestling. We could rent the equipment, the high definition equipment for the weekend. We could have hired a production crew or a production system to come in and do it for us. Both of those turned out, and it's a 2-year contract for NAI. Both those ran about $10,000 per weekend. So we just spend the $24,000 and we actually own the equipment so that we can utilize that for other events. We're going to be talking to the basketball. We do 5A basketball. We talked to the State High School Association about maybe doing some production equipment production for them.
Okay. Thank you, HR. Motion made to approve the expenditures by Commissioner Cook and seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Thank you, HR. Next item.
Yeah.
Item E, Public Works Solid Waste. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C51-2014 with CFS Engineers, Inc. for design and construction engineering services for the Southwest Docking Road Bridge over Haskell Creek project in an amount of $47,000.
Good morning, Commissioners. Tom Black with Public Works and Solid Waste. This project budget was on last Thursday for consideration by the Commission, which it was approved. And part of that, we had gone out for requests for proposals, actually for 4 different bridges that we have on the slate to be replaced in the next coming year, in 2015. This particular bridge, the Technical Selections Committee met and recommended that this particular bridge be awarded to CFS Engineers. They have submitted a contract to us. We have reviewed it. We feel it's very reasonable, the cost that they have provided to us. So it is our recommendation that the contract be awarded to CFS. This particular bridge is located about 1/10 of a mile south of 57th Street on Docking Road, and the funding for this replacement bridge will come from the sales tax program. So if there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Okay. Thank you, John. Questions, comments?
I have none. Move approval of the contract.
Second.
Motion made to approve the contract by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed no. Motion carries
All right.
3-0.
Thank you.
Next item, please. Thank you, Tom.
Item F, Parks and Recreation. Number 1, consider authorization and execution of contract C52-2014 with the American Society of Composers, Authors, and Publishers, ASCAP, to allow Shawnee County to play publicly musical compositions in the ASCAP repertory at the cost of $1,712.
Good morning, Commissioners. John Knight, Parks and Recreation. We need this agreement so that we can play background music at sporting events, during our swimming pool and aquatic facility operations, those type of things. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any
Do
questions?
have a question,
Commissioner
Mr.
Bueller.
Chair. John, this is only one of several contracts that we have in place for this type of thing, playing music, correct?
Yes.
Are those up for renewal anytime soon?
ASCAP renews yearly. The others are on multi-year contracts.
Multi-year?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So we
I
have-
believe this will be the only one coming down this year.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Question?
The only other alternative, John, is the John Knight kazoo background music.
Yeah, and then there's been a specific request to retire the John Knight Kazoo Band, so.
I would move for approval of the contract.
Second. I kind of want to hear
I
the
can go
John
to
Knight.
the-
You know, I'm curious now.
So does Mr. Cole here, so I'll be
Okay,
performing
good.
over at the
Well,
jail one of these nights.
There we go.
I think that would be more appropriate in an executive session. Motion made by, I think, Commissioner Cook.
Yes, I did.
Seconded by Commissioner Bueller to approve the contract. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item F2, consider 2014 Lake Shawnee closings and restrictions.
Commissioners, this is a list of restrictions and closings of Lake Shawnee. The Shawnee County Code calls out that only the county commissioners can close the lake. And I put this item out early in January so that people who are making vacations, those type of things, have as much notice as possible for these restrictions on the lake. Most of it's for different special events we hold around the community. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Other questions or comments?
I'm glad you clarified that, closing the lake for purposes of events, not closing the lake for budget or anything
Oh.
like that. Yeah, I just want to make sure that gets noted.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Archer, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item F3, consider approval of sole source purchase for repair work on a septic pump truck at a cost of $3,755.31.
Commissioners, this is a piece of equipment we use to clean out the portable restrooms and even some of our permanent restrooms that have holding tanks. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Are there questions?
Motion for approval.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Cook, seconded by Commissioner Bueller. All in favor say aye. Opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0. Next item, please.
Item F4, consider approval of a schedule of fees for use of Shawnee County Park and Recreation facilities and participation in department-sponsored activities.
Commissioners, the Shawnee County Code gives me the authority to set the fees, but I come down to the commissioners so that everybody's aware and you guys can have input as well into these fees. Parks and Recreation, when we came up with these fees, we're looking, and this is a process that we're going through with the master plan at the same time too. We're going through and trying the best we can to recover costs where we can. Also, they're putting different programs into different categories. We have core essential functions, we have important functions, and then we have value-added functions. Some of these value-added functions in which a select group of people are receiving these benefits, those fees are going to be set to where they recover all the costs. Some of the other functions, there's a little bit of tax subsidy that goes to keep those going, and that's kind of the background on what we did to get to this point. Just so you know, we went back and looked all the way back to 2007 and compared all these prices, not only in Shawnee counties, but from 2007 to 2012, we had two separate Parks and Recreation departments, and in that time, fees might have minimally increased in some places, but I think it's just safer to say there were really no requests or no increases in fees to get to that point. I think a lot of that had to also do with the economy at that time too, as to we wanted to make sure our level of business stayed up as well. But some of the fees that are affected the most and will probably draw the most attention will be the golf fees and the shelter house fees. I want to make sure that you guys see there's a lot of talk in the community about whether or not golf pays for itself. I prepared a white paper about a year ago at this time too that kind of explained this situation. But the golf fees have gone up. I guess the best way to describe it would be about 10%, and then we round it off if it's an individual fee to the nearest dollar. If it's a larger fee or a yearly fee, then we rounded it off to the nearest $5. But this shows the 2013 revenue from daily fees, annual pass fees, and total revenues for the Cypress Ridge Golf Course, and then what these fees would do in the event that we have the same amount of play. And I will say that 2013 was a bad weather year for golf and swimming as well. This is the Forbes Golf Course. We talked about this earlier in the year, and it was my read to this commission that they'd wanted to see if we could increase some fees. The fees at Forbes Golf Course went up quite a bit more than the 10%. It went up around 18 to 20%. What we want to do there is reduce any of the subsidy that's the public dollars that are going in to keep that operation running. And I think we've been able to reduce that quite a bit. We'll do it on the expenditure or on the revenue side, but we'll also do it on the expenditure side by reducing some of the services we provide as well. But this is what the increased fees would turn that operation. I will say that it's our projection that we get the same amount of play at Forbes and we reduce our revenues, or we reduce our services. We're still probably looking at a $50,000 or $60,000 subsidy to cover that. We're going to have more play to break even, but I'm not sure where that line is. Personally, I think Forbes plays a lot of benefits. Does it need to pay for itself? No, but I do think that Lake Shawnee and Cypress do. And then you'll see here the Lake Shawnee golf courses, what those fees will do to all of those golf courses. Kind of what we're looking at, our projections on this would be that the total operation of all three golf courses would break even, more than break even. It'll turn a profit. And that's what we're looking at for all three courses. And that was my read as to where the commission would like to see this progress. And that's what that shows right there. Shelter reservations, those haven't changed very much since 2007 either. As you can see, the increase in fees will take that to an almost break-even plateau for covering the expenses that it costs to put those on. Now that's just the operation of those shelter houses and the rentals. That's not the any kind of preventative repairs, additions, any of those type of things. We'll have to address those some other way. As you can see, we have a big dip there in July, and I think that's because around the July 4th and that July 4th weekend, we booked those in Shawnee County Parks and Rec's name and don't rent them to the public. You can see we have a pretty good spread. I don't know how come people don't want to have picnics in January and February, but it looks like our total number of rentals are down quite a bit in January and February. With that being said, I did want to reemphasize that both the golf and the swimming, this was a bad year weather-wise for that. In my white paper that I presented to you, I suggested that we, instead of having a year-to-year comparison, that we may spread that out over a 3 to 5 year, which would be a much fairer comparison for those that are so dependent on a short amount of time over a short amount of time. Be happy to answer any other questions you may have or go into any other further details on any of the fees that we've proposed.
Commissioner?
John, do you know exactly, and I don't have an approximation, if we had everything the same amount of use as last year, with this fee increase, what the total difference would be with these new fees?
Yeah, we're hoping to get that to about $1 million more.
Okay.
If you recall, during the budget process, the revenue that was projected was increased about $1 million, and we should be on track to get that, and then hopefully a little bit more with some good weather.
And obviously, that's completely dependent upon use and factors that are beyond our control at this point.
A lot of it is beyond that, but it still comes down to good public service and those type of things. Get people coming back more and more often and stuff. So our staff plays a tremendous role in that as well.
And given that it's been many years since we've had any adjustment in the fees, would you anticipate this being something that we would review on a yearly basis to adjust fees as the economy demands?
The document that you have in front of you is one that I put out annually, and I come down to the county commissioners annually with that.
But the actual fees themselves have not really varied.
Correct.
And so, I mean, I guess when the Forbes group, and using them as the example, they came down and said, we think we could pay more, we're getting a great deal and we know it. If we get to the end of this year and we recognize that this is still not covering the expenses for golf, would they be on notice that maybe fees will continue to go up until we do reach a point?
Yes, I would think that would be a natural thing. I think when the master plan comes back, though, I would like the county commission to look at Forbes maybe in a different light than we look at Lake Shawnee and Cypress. Those are 18-hole golf courses. They can hold events there. It's starting behind the 8 ball already on being able to cover its costs. I think its benefits may not be financial down there. There may be some other benefits to Forbes. But the answer to your question is yes, I consider fees to go up. We also looked at our local competitors too. With our golf course fees, we looked at Eagle Bend, some of the other courses around it, and put ourselves so that we were very competitive.
Commissioner,
I'm done, thank you.
Commissioner Bueller.
Thank you. John, go into a little bit more about comparisons and how you went about doing that. You didn't just do that for golf, you did that for other fees as well.
Oh, absolutely. We've looked around to see what other places charge, what their other hours are. Most of the other facilities, the shelter houses, we don't really have a real close competitor, but we do look at what other places do. And I know people don't want to pay more in fees, but they don't want to pay more in taxes either. So I think it's kind of a wash there as to try to get the people who are getting the direct benefit of some of these that they recover those, that the county recovers those costs. But we do look around to all facilities.
And these go into effect as of today?
I think technically they probably go in at the end of today, so it would be tomorrow that they go in. So we'll, I know there was a lot of guys from Forbes that were down here a month ago. They know that the fees will go in tomorrow. We'll see how many of them try to beat the 1-year increase and get down and get their memberships improved. I will tell you that this isn't a direct, our shelter houses for one are rented 1 year in advance. We're likely to not see the big increases for the shelter houses until the next year. We've got a lot of the 2014 already rented.
Okay.
I have nothing
I
else.
have nothing further.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Move approval.
I'll second.
Motion made to approve the schedule of fees by Commissioner Bueller, seconded by Commissioner Cook. All in favor say aye, opposed say no. Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you,
you, John.
Commissioner.
Next item, please.
Item 5, Administrative Communications.
Morning, Commissioners. Tom Block again with Public Works and Solid Waste. I just wanted to mention again that we will be having an open house tonight regarding the improvement project for Northwest 46th Street between Rochester Road and Topeka Boulevard. The open house will be from 5:30 to 7:30 at the Seaman High School Commons. And while I have a chance, I would like to thank the Capital Journal for publishing it in the paper a couple of times for us, as well as Nels Anderson and City Channel 4 for putting it on the City Local Access Channel. That really helps in getting the word out. So it'll be tonight, 5:30 to 7:30 at Seaman High School. Thank you.
All right,
Thank you,
good
Tom.
job.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Good morning.
Here's
Thank you.
Good morning. Andrew Howell with Shawnee County Elections. I just, as you may have noticed in the press recently, 501 has requested a mail-ballot election. I wanted to do just a real quick presentation about some of those details, at least to give you an initial understanding of where we're at. I'm still having to learn how to use this, but I know I've got to, so. The amount that 501 has requested is the $143 million bond election. Right there. Oh, I'm not used to it.
There you go.
Okay, I think I'm ready. Mark and myself and Edie have all met with the administration just briefly and talked about what's required. Part of putting on a bond election is you have to put a plan together, and you have to meet with the stakeholders and figure out exactly how to put that plan together. So there's a few things I want to talk about just briefly. Key milestone dates, the budgeting and the costs, the stakeholders and the relevant statutes. And again, we'll give you a lot better detail on this as we get the plan finalized, but I wanted to give you an initial presentation about where we're at and what we're doing related to that. April 8, 2014 is the requested date. That puts us in a little bit of a bind as it relates to getting everything accomplished in a timely manner. So part of the reason for my presentation today is I want to let you know that we will be coming with a series of requests. We just went out for a bid, and so a lot of those things are fairly fresh. I think we'll be okay with our providers, but we will not have time to accomplish this and go back out through the normal processes that the county uses for going back out for bid. So we're going to have to come to you with some requests for exceptions for that. So I just want you to be aware of that, because we're about 70 days out from the election. We normally need 90 days. We're going to have to shortcut some of those things a little bit in front, put the plan together at the same time as we're putting some of these other details together. So just be aware that we're going to have to do that. Statute requires that we put a plan together that has to be approved, and in order for us to put that plan together in a fairly quick order, we're going to have to come to you with those requests. We do still have the 45-day requirement for federal service ballots to go out, so that's coming up pretty quick. And our other registration office tasks are still ongoing. We have some newer employees in the office, so we're spending a lot of time on training and making sure that those tasks are getting done correctly as well. And just as a reminder, April 14th is our projected date for the canvass of that election. So just as a calendar item, just you might keep that in mind and make sure that will work. Yes?
Mr. Gray, what's magic about April the 8th, why we didn't require the 90 days that we typically have for an election like this?
The quick answer to that is I'm hesitant to not give it a full effort on my part when an elected official asks me to do something. I believe from their perspective, they're worried about time frames with the legislature. So we try the best we can in our office to make it work. We told them that we thought it could be done maybe if everything went smoothly on this end, but we told them that basically the bid process would have to be shortcut or it couldn't be done. So.
But it looks like by and large we have a systematic process that we use to do this, and it's being short-circuited to some degree by a request to have an early election.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So again, I guess consider the April 14th date for canvass. As far as budget and costs, we're still working on the details of the plan. I don't have any information for you at this point. Like I said, we've still got to get permission from the county commission for the ballots, for all the different details, for that to be nailed down. Again, the majority of those costs will be borne by 501. There is a potential for it to have a small impact on our budget as well. Yeah, as you may recall, during our budget hearing, we specifically stated in there that it does not include special elections because you really don't know the details of how it will affect our budget, depending on whether it's a mail ballot or a standard special election. So that's a consideration as well. Our stakeholders, 501 staff, administrative staff, and the board, U.S. Postal Service, just briefly, a secondary complication there. Now that mail runs through Kansas City, it's going to take a little bit more management, and we mentioned this to them, it's going to take a little more management on our end to make sure that those ballots make it to Kansas City and back as part of that process. So there's some extra complication there as well. Vendors, again, ballots, envelopes, and the things that we have to put together there. Secretary of State's office has to approve our plan. I can assure you we'll be working late this week to make sure that that is done. And again, county commissioners serving as board of canvass. Bond counsel for USD 501, as well as the county counselor's office and election office staff and our board workers. I've listed here the relevant statutes. There may be a few others, but these are the main ones that govern a bond publication requirement as well as the mail ballot election requirements. And again, we'll be visiting with the county counselor's office about this as well. That's my quick presentation. If you have any other questions, I'll be happy to try to answer them.
Commissioner?
Mr. Howell, given the timeliness of the concern by the USD 501 to get this on a mail-in ballot, what authority does the commission have if we said that, you know, we don't want to have a mail-in ballot, we want this to be on the general election? Can the county commission, and again, just asking because I'm sure I'll be asked by constituents as well as the paper later on, what if the county commission said no, we won't approve a mail-in ballot?
That may actually be a rich question a little bit. I may toss that over to him a little bit. My understanding is they have the authority as their own separate board to say what they want to do, and then, you know, we basically have to implement it. I think there is some question as to exactly when. I have the authority to move that around, or at least to try to. I think it's incumbent for me to try to do the best I can to work with elected officials and not insert myself into that process if not absolutely necessary. So that's what I'm trying to accomplish. And school board is an independent authority that has its own authority to make those kinds of decisions. I don't believe the county commission really has, other than paying the bills as they may come due. I don't know that you have any special ability to influence that I'm aware of. But you may want to ask Rich that question too. That may be.
I agree. I can't add much to that.
Right. And again, I just want to make sure that if I answer that question as to what the authority is as to the county commission, whether or not we have the authority to force it to a non-mail-in ballot. And I gather the answer is no. The only question is when. Is that fair to say?
I believe that there may be a small amount of flexibility that I have, and I could drag my feet. My inclination is not to drag my feet when asked by elected officials to try to accomplish an election. So
I appreciate that.
what we've told the office staff is that, and part of why I'm making the presentation to you, is to make sure that we can in fact jump through some of these hurdles, because the time is very short, the issues are fairly complex, and the mail ballot running through Kansas City is also a second concern. It's been 2007 since we've had a mail election here, and some of the folks at the post office aren't as familiar as we would prefer, but nevertheless.
On a mail-in ballot, is it when received or when stamped by the mail for it to be official? Is it when it's received by your office? So if a person's mailing the ballot in and they have to have it mailed in by a certain date, is it that it has to be received by your office or that it has to be stamped?
Yeah, it has to be in our office at noon, and it's on election day. So it's not about a stamp. It's about if we don't physically have it at that time, then that's the end.
So if there are people that are voting in that election and they said, well, I mailed it off 2 days early, but if the post office took time or it didn't get delivered for whatever reason, it would be invalid.
We plan to spend a lot of time making sure the public is aware of those kinds of issues, so that they have plenty of time and are well aware.
All right.
And there's just a little over 50,000 voters involved, so it's a pretty sizable mail ballot election. So.
Yes, Commissioner.
I'm sure Topeka Public Schools will do the same. I mean, they will be doing a good bit of education on this
I'm sure
ballot.
they
But what is the estimated cost for Topeka Public Schools? Do you know?
I don't have, like I said, we don't actually have any of those numbers yet, because we're going to have to come to you for requests to use some of our prior year bids for ballots and
Sure.
envelopes, and until we know those costs, I'm not going to be able to really give you much. But I wanted to do at least an initial presentation so you're aware that's coming.
Good, very good.
Okay. And there's no specific criteria for an issue being on a mail-in ballot, primary ballot, general election ballot? It's just whatever the duly authorized people ask for, is that pretty much it?
I think that's generally
County council
generally
is-
correct, yes.
Nodding his head, so, okay,
Within statute, yeah.
okay, all right.
Thanks.
Thank you,
Thank
Andrew. Any other administrative communications?
No, I have
I know that there was a letter to the editor asking about the Joint Economic Development Organization's meeting. If it hasn't been announced or if it hasn't been received, that is scheduled for February the 5th at the city chambers. So just to make sure that the public is aware that there has been a date set. Unfortunately, it's not in the month of January, but it is close.
It is, and a lot of times schedules in January are very difficult, and that was part of the problem as far as getting a quorum to meet, and so.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes,
may
Commissioner.
comment on that. I think it might be helpful at our first meeting of the year to maybe set those meetings for 2014, so that everyone will have them on their schedule, the press will have them, the public will have them. I think that might be something that we have discussion about and take some action on. I think that would be better than us trying to figure that out in between all the different schedules. So, yeah,
I concur,
I think it'd be much more simple.
Yeah.
especially considering the amount of time it takes for our staff and
Exactly.
the city staff to coordinate.
Just set the times for the year and
And
then
that's
we
that.
know.
Yep,
Yep.
that's a great idea, and I look forward to discussing that on February the 5th. Next item, please.
Item 6, executive sessions.
I don't believe there's a need. If not, we are adjourned.
I threw that out there for Jane's sake because it
Yeah.
is